Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to help to continue to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable and confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know what it was like to go from Finland to financial freedom, then guess what? You're really going to love today's conversation. You know why? Because today's guest not only was a 3-year all-conference football player in college, he also had a stop in the financial services sector with global and was working with global wealth clients. He also is today currently leading an organization that manages 22 different manufactured housing communities across 9 states. That's awesome. He's also the host of the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing podcast and the CEO of Keel Team Real Estate Investments. Welcome to the show, Andrew Keel. How you doing, Andrew?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you know what? I'm really, really looking forward to this. This is the first time that's been Keel and Keels. So I'm really, I know everybody's looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be awesome. And if you're not watching this, you should be watching this over on YouTube. So check us out. Hey, listen, Andrew, we've got a pretty standard format here. We like to ask a couple of questions right in the very beginning. And so I'm going to stay true to form, and I'm going to ask you these questions, and we're going to get into your backstory. So first and foremost, what city do you live in?
I live in Oviedo, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando, right smack dab in the middle of Florida, home nearby to Mickey Mouse. So my little kids love heading down to Disney World when it's, normal and we're not in the middle of a pandemic. So, but we have been to Disney World a lot, and we love going there.
Awesome. And one of the things I didn't say, but I'm going to say it now, is you are the proud father of 2, and yeah, if you're being close to Mickey's home, that's awesome, man. Congrats for that. Yeah, it is. Listen, so speaking of which, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours, Andrew?
The most positive thing that has happened to me in the last 24 hours is I have some friends from Omaha, Nebraska that were in town, and last night we had an amazing dinner together, and we just conversed and just had a great evening. So that was really special.
Awesome. Being able to have those special times with friends that you may not get the chance to see all the time, that is wonderful. So thanks for sharing that with us. So listen, everybody wants to know already, Andrew, I've highlighted a couple things here at the beginning, but let's get into your backstory. Tell us, help the Going Long audience understand a little bit about more who is Andrew Keel and some of the different decisions and things that you've made to get to this point in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. So I went to school here in Orlando, Florida, went to high school. I graduated and got a football scholarship and academic scholarship to go to Augustana University, which is in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Went up there, had a great time, being a student athlete. And then after school, I came back down to Orlando for a couple months. And then I signed a contract to go over to Oulu, Finland, and play American football on a club team up in Oulu. And I just had a fantastic time. I spent 4 months living in Oulu and traveling the country of Finland, playing American football in what's called the Maple League, which is an American football league over there. Obviously not as popular as, typical just football, which here in the US we call soccer, but had a fantastic experience over there. Still have a lot of friends over in Finland. And then after that experience, I came back to Florida, to Orlando. I started working for a branding and marketing company, and I started as a sales representative, worked my way up to a sales manager position. I was there 4 years, had a great experience. I was mainly servicing realtors. So I met a lot of people that were like Keller Williams real estate agents, and they were investing on the side. And I met with them and just were talking with them and became very interested in real estate investing. So I ended up leaving that position and going into real estate investing full time. I started flipping houses and wholesaling residential contracts throughout the Central Florida area. Uh, did that for about 2 years or so. And I wanted the whole time to have more consistent cash flow, every month, because it was like, all right, I had one deal close and it was great. And then I'd go maybe a month or two without a closing, and it was just tough to manage that cash flow and manage the in and outs of the funds. So I stumbled across a deal to buy 2 mobile homes in Ocala, Florida, which is just north of Orlando. It was through a yellow letter that I mailed out to a probate list. And this gentleman reached out and said, hey, we just want to get rid of these things. These mobile homes were in a mobile home park up in Ocala. And he said, hey, if you give me $2,200 cash, I'll give you the title to both of these homes. And these were like nice homes, manufactured in the mid 1990s. So I bought them, didn't know what I was going to do with them. This was my very first exposure to manufactured housing. And I ended up buying them. I came home and I got on YouTube and I typed in how to make money with mobile homes, and popped up Mr. Lonnie Scruggs, who is the author of a book called Deals on Wheels. And he teaches people how to buy mobile homes, fix them up, and then sell them on contract. So I did that exact thing with these 2 homes. I painted the walls, put in some new carpet, and put probably less than $1,000 into each of them. So I had very minimal outlay of cash. And then I went ahead and put them on Craigslist. And I had over 40 people reach out to me in the first 2 days that those ads were online. So I was just stunned by the demand for these 2 mobile homes that were relatively small compared to the living arrangements I was used to. And it was unbelievable. So I was able to sell both of those homes for $2,500 down. And then I got $250 a month for 5 years out of both of those. Wow. So I was like, okay, this is a great deal. This is fantastic. I became more entrenched with mobile homes and manufactured housing. I ended up doing 19 more of those Lonnie deals where you buy the homes and sell them on contract. And then during that process, about a year or two later, I met a park owner that owned the entire community. And I was under the assumption that, hey, you had to have a ton of money. You had to be an absolute millionaire to be able to buy the whole community. And he taught me about using other people's money to partner, with a pool of investors to buy these assets and fix them up and refinance them or hold them long-term for the cash flow. So when he taught me that, I had like an aha moment. I just became obsessed with mobile home parks. I literally came home from that lunch meeting and wrote on my refrigerator, I want to buy a mobile home park in 2016. And I looked at it every day. And I unfortunately did not purchase a mobile home park in 2016 because I became, busy with flipping houses and so forth, what I was doing at the time. But I was self-educating. I was reading books about mobile home parks. I went to boot camps. I went to other like live seminars. And then, I eventually started marketing to owners. And fortunately, I found a deal, my very first deal outside of St. Louis, Missouri. It was 67 lots. And I didn't have all the money to purchase it myself. So I went to someone that I met at the MHU Mobile Home University Boot Camp. And he was looking to passively invest. He said, hey, I'll put up the money. You do the sweat equity and we'll partner on this acquisition. And we did exactly that. We bought this park at a 10 cap and ended up filling it within a year and then refinancing at month 21 of ownership, pulling out all capital plus a significant amount of extra reserves. So it was just a fantastic home run deal. Since then, I did 4 more deals with that investor. So we still own 5 communities together to this day. And I've brought on other people, friends and family, and other investors. And now we do full-on syndications to acquire mobile home communities. And we buy about 4 to 5 communities per year right now.
Wow, fantastic. So you got 4 to 5 communities now that you're buying on average. You kind of you got us started right with not just the football experience and living overseas, but also from there, really having a chance to get into sales and marketing. And so there's a bunch of different questions that I have, and I'm sure that everybody wants to know. But like having that overseas experience and playing a team sport, What are some of the things that you learned in that experience that you really feel are beneficial to help your business be profitable and grow in the right way today?
Hands down, by far, would be the social integration factor. I lived in Florida. I went to South Dakota and played football, didn't know anybody up there, and left with a large group of friends. Came back, went over to Finland, same thing, had that team structure. So I was fortunate enough to just walk into having 100 friends, whether it was in South Dakota or in Oulu, Finland. So that experience of learning different personality types and just integrating with other people socially was tremendously helpful in preparing me for dealing with different types of people and communication styles. And I think that has just been very, very helpful in getting me to where I am today.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's one of those things, and when you have that opportunity, sometimes it can be a little bit scary, right? Because you're going outside of
Yeah.
your comfort zone. But once you've done it, you realize, okay, look, these are skills that you're building today. And then as you start to lead organizations and you're looking for talent and you want to develop the talent, you start to draw on a lot of those skills that, well, when you were kind of a fish out of water in the beginning, it's really it helps you to develop and develop talent moving forward. So thanks for sharing that. There was another thing you also talked about. You went into a sales and sales leadership. And so a lot of the people, a lot of our audience are people that work in the sales profession. So similar kind of question, what were some of the basic foundations that sales and sales management experience also taught you that is helping your team and helping you today?
Yeah. I think it all boils down to one thing, and that's follow up. Whether it's, finding a new deal, whether it's cultivating a relationship with an investor, or whether it's pursuing an employee a future employee that I would like to hire and bring onto my team, it all came down to follow up and being organized. So when I was in the sales position, I was huge on follow up, huge on, contacting people on an ongoing basis and just staying in touch and building relationships and building rapport. But I would say follow up is by far the most important factor that I learned from that sales position that I now bring into my syndication business.
Okay, fantastic. So follow up, and organization, being able to do that, and as a syndicator, I'm sure that is something, or I know that that's something that is extremely important. So you told us a bit about the move into the mobile home park, and you told us about the 2 units and the $2,200 each. But I guess why in the world would a guy who had previously had experience in paper assets, right? You had a previous experience there where you're working with paper assets. Like, why in the world would you even think about getting into real assets?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I took an internship at Merrill Lynch, which was it was an interesting time because it was 2008, and while I was in that internship, it was the largest. There was a single day that the Dow Jones. I don't know if you remember, but it was like
Yes.
somebody inserted too many zeros or
Yeah.
something, and like the Dow Jones had like the largest drop in a single day in the history of the
Yep.
stock market.
I do
And I
remember.
was the guy that was on the phones that day. So
Oh,
my phones were just blowing up with people literally crying, because they lost, a quarter of their net worth in a single day, their retirement savings in a single day. Were
wow.
calling me, an intern that's been there a couple months, like just panicking. So that experience somewhat scarred me from the stock market and from the Wall Street casino. And I decided that, hey, I need something more tangible. I need something that I can depend on and that is going to be a real asset, like you mentioned, and provide cash flow on a consistent basis. So that kind of, was my first exposure to that because I was behind the phones forwarding calls to the financial advisors and they were just slammed on the phones all day. So it definitely was an interesting experience that pulled me away from those types of assets and put me on the path towards finding a better solution, which ended up being real assets and real estate.
Wow. Isn't it amazing, Andrew, how these types of experiences, when you're living it, because you're on the other side, right? I mean, you were actually in the paper asset world, seeing the emotions that were happening with other people when in the click or like in the click of a moment, everything can go away or a large portion of your portfolio. So the fact that that did have the effect on you that it did and really helped you to see the light in a real asset world, I guess for you was a benefit. For many others, not so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you also too. You talk a lot about the things that you experienced. We talked about you being a father, and I know that's something that's really important and close to your heart. But maybe you could talk to us also too about some of the lessons that you learned from your own father, because I know that he is a big inspiration for you and some of the things that you saw as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, totally. So my father was a salesperson that grew into a sales manager position, then ended up starting his own company in like the office supply business, and then branched out into, toner cartridge recycling. And, you know, through my childhood, he then bought and sold businesses, and that's what he did. And he was very successful at it for the majority of my childhood. And it was very interesting to watch how he would buy these businesses, take them over. They were having cash flow problems and so forth. He would fix certain things, add a ton of sales to it, and then things would improve. So it was very influential in my life to see him do that and buy a business and then increase the income and then sell it a couple years later and then go into something different. So that was very powerful. When I went off to college, he had purchased a hurricane shutter business. He this was in 2006. He took a second mortgage out on our primary house that I grew up in and used the funds to buy a hurricane shutter manufacturing business out of Port Orange, Florida. Which hurricanes, Florida, it's something that happens, and people need shutters for their condos and so forth on the coast. However, that business was directly related to the housing market. And obviously 2006, 2007 was the peak. So when 2008 happened, the whole business kind of just, the bottom fell out, and there was not enough sales to keep it going. And basically he ended up shutting down the hurricane shutter business and lost a significant portion of his savings. And they ended up, unfortunately, going bankrupt. My mother and my father went bankrupt, and they lost the house that I grew up in. They foreclosed on it and lost that, which was, very, very unfortunate and very scarring experience for myself, kind of witnessing all of this. But at the same time, I was in college, so I was, somewhat distant from it, but I was still, seeing them have to downgrade from a bigger life that they once were living. They had to step back, and that's something that just had a huge impact on me because it was so difficult to watch them, have to lower their financial means and live a step back than what they were used to. And it was very difficult for them to do so. So that had a very big impact on me and kind of was a driver behind figuring out personal finances and figuring out investments to make sure that, hey, this doesn't happen to me and my immediate family moving forward. So that, my father, a very passionate man and very fortunate to have his influence in both good and bad ways so that, it brought me to where I am today.
So that is one of the benefits when you're able to see and live vicariously through your parents, because as you mentioned before, you were able to see, and now you recognize that there was a wave. He was at the top of the wave when he had that opportunity, and then you can also see, much like you saw when you were working in your internship, what can happen on the other side. You also have seen the less smiley face or the worst part of when things can turn and you are on the opposite side of that. So I appreciate you sharing that with us today, because that is also something that's really helpful for others to start to be able to recognize patterns and trends and things like that. And so would actually like to pivot a bit, because you've helped share some of the things that you've learned and some of the things that have helped you get to where you are today. And I really want to talk about Keel Team Real Estate investing, because I know that this is a way that you're actually going out making a lot of positive impact. So tell us a little bit about what it is that you're doing to help to educate the marketplace and really add a lot of value in the communities where you are located, or where your teams are located.
Yeah, totally. I'm just really excited about what we do and what we have the ability to do. I mean, I wake up every day just excited and with a really big amount of energy for life. And we just recently purchased a community in Tifton, Georgia, for example, a growing market, but not, by no means is it a primary market, very secondary. And we purchased this community that was owned by a mom and pop owner for 35 years. And the mom and pop at this point is, I think he's 81 years old, the gentleman that we purchased it from. His wife passed away a few years ago. And back 20 years ago, he used to rehab these homes himself. He used to cut the grass himself. He was the hands-on operator. And this community, from everybody that has told us, that has lived there that long and that has known the community that long, said, hey, 15 years ago, this community was top notch. It was well maintained. But as he got older, the community got less oversight, and it still remained occupied, but it just, the grass wasn't getting mowed. And it just kind of was, there's a lot of deferred maintenance going on. And, he was taking every penny from the community to support his retirement, and he wasn't reinvesting in the community to increase the value. So for us to be able to come in with a group of investors and completely, clean up this community, add fencing, add new signage, fix the roads, that potholes have been there for 20 years. We were able to fix those things and improve the quality of life every day for these residents. And then in addition, it's a win for our investors and for ourselves. It's a gift. And I'm so thankful that I found this, opportunity to do this every day, because it's truly a win-win for the residents, for our investors, for our general partners. And, we do that on a large scale now.
Okay, that's awesome. So this Tifton, Georgia is a great example. It's a story that a lot of us in the industry are very familiar with this type of a story. So maybe let's use Tifton as an example, right? Because there are a lot of people that are, let's say, outside of the United States. They may not really be familiar with the mobile home parks or manufactured home communities. Help us understand a little bit, like when you saw this particular park, like what was it that attracted you to, like you've talked about some of the things that you could improve on, but when you get these opportunities that come your way, like how do you know that this is one that you really want to go after? Maybe like what are some of the different criteria that you go through to say, okay, this is where we want to put our time and energy to really go towards this community?
Totally. So I think it's important to start from a macro level and look at the mobile home park industry as a whole. The number one reason why this asset class is so valuable, in my eyes, is because the supply is limited. So first off, to develop a multifamily, or to develop self-storage, or to develop a single family home development is pretty easy to get through the zoning and development board, because you're going to provide significant amount of property taxes to the local municipality to get that property developed. Well, a mobile home park is the exact opposite, right? So not only is there this initiative of not in my backyard, because if you have a nice housing development and someone wants to put a mobile home park right next to it, it doesn't really mix, and people don't want to live next to a mobile home park. So there's that initiative. And then on top of that, mobile home parks are a loss leader in terms of, revenue and expenses for municipalities, because number one, the property, the taxes on an individual mobile home that's owned by the resident are typically around $50 to $100 a year. Well, if that mobile home has a family of four, husband, wife, and two kids that go to public school, it costs on average around $10,000 to $11,000 per year to put a child through public school. So they're losing a significant amount of money, by offering housing in that municipality for that family. So it's just not it's not something that, zoning officials are just super amped up about, having a new mobile home park developed. So on average, I think there's like 100 mobile home parks per year that are torn down and redeveloped into higher and better land uses. And then at the same time, there's less than 10 mobile home parks across the country that are being developed. So if you look at the math, there's supply that's being restricted and reduced, while at the same time, there's a huge affordable housing crisis going on in the US. They're not building starter houses anymore. And, it's just the income levels. There's a disparity between the low income and high income. And the middle class is kind of disappearing. So those two factors combined make this a interesting business to be in, the affordable housing business. And then on top of that, so you got limited supply, extremely high demand. And then you have other factors like there's good financing options through the agencies that you're able to utilize to purchase these communities and fix them up and make them a better place for everyone to live. And then also there's really high returns. So that's one thing that a lot of our investors appreciate, is that the potential to earn high returns, because the cap rates are significantly higher in mobile home parks compared to other asset classes. So those are a couple of reasons why we like the asset class and why it's attractive to us. Now, this specific property in Tifton, Georgia, what attracted us to it and the value add components that it offers is, number one, this community was 109 lots. So it's a large community. It's able to move the needle when we're raising money from investors. It's able to move the needle when we can add value. Number two, this community was owned by a mom and pop, and lot rents were 37% under market. So the current owner was a 81-year-old gentleman, and he hadn't raised rents in like 15 years, primarily because he didn't want the headaches of, he thought that there was going to be a high turnover if he raised any rents, and he didn't want the headaches. And he had this community paid off. So he didn't have a mortgage to worry about. So he didn't need to squeeze every penny out of this thing like he once did when he did have a mortgage. So we called all the communities around the park, the subject property, and got lot rent comps and found out that lot rents in this community were $150 and the market was significantly higher. So that is an easy value add component that when we come into the community, clean it up, fix the deferred maintenance, we're able to instantly, add that value for the extra rent that we're increasing. And then, on top of that, this community, one of the big things with mobile home parks is the utility infrastructure. Utility infrastructure is the most expensive part of these communities because typically we don't own the homes. So, we're not responsible for the maintenance of the mobile homes if something breaks, like you would be in a multifamily or something similar. So we just own the land underneath, and we're charging them lot rent to have their home on our community. So the utility infrastructure you want to make sure is good quality. And the utility infrastructure in this park in Tifton was installed in the 90s and was all, PVC and very high quality. And the water, sewer, and trash were direct billed to our residents. So we didn't have to deal with, sub billing and sub metering the water and things like that, which is a costly, process. So for those factors, we were really excited about this deal. And, we're really happy with the diverse employment around the Tifton area. It's growing significantly. There's a brand new Coca-Cola bottling plant that's being installed on I-75 right there in Tifton, and that's going to add like 200 jobs. So there's growth happening. Yeah, it's a smaller community. It's not a Orlando or a San Francisco or a primary market, but it is growing and it will experience, slow growth. And that's what we're really excited about.
All right. So I'm glad you're excited about that. Slow growth is going to happen when you have big brands that are there like Coca-Cola and you get the diversification of the jobs. That's always something that is very positive. What I hear you saying, what I like about what you're saying is that you really take not just to look at the specific opportunity at the micro level, you really are supported by some of the stronger fundamentals at the macro level, which is one of the reasons that you and your team are really focused on this manufactured homes and communities, which I think is fantastic because you're really looking at it holistically. And one of the things that, we love here, really, Andrew, is that the whole thing about being able to invest beyond your backyard. Now, you talked about 22 different communities. We talked about 9 states. Help us understand, what was your vision for your team? And you touched on it a little bit, but really wanted to get to the vision because like the easy thing in investing would be for you just to stay in Florida, right? To stay right near Orlando. Like that's the easy part. why in the world would you have your business grow to 9 different states?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's been hurdles with that, but the whole idea when I was coming into this business and why I chose mobile home parks is because of the scalability. It's a scalable model. We don't, we need an on-site manager that's very part-time on location just to be our eyes and ears, but we don't need a full-time maintenance person because again, the tenants own their homes. We just own the lots underneath of them and are charging them for, the real estate. So it was a scalable model, and we were able to aggregate a large portion of our portfolio in the Midwest. And that was done for two reasons. One, to avoid hurricanes, because hurricanes come to coastal areas and can cause significant damage to any real estate. Number two, the stigma of living in a mobile home is not as strong in the Midwest as it is to the Southeast, where we're dealing with all age communities. And, a lot of first time, newly married, residents of our communities in the Midwest, they are, it's normal for them to come out of their parents' house, live in a mobile home for a couple years, save up money until they can buy their first house. Where in the Southeast, there's just a different dynamic. So those were a couple of the reasons why we specifically focused our portfolio in the Midwest.
Okay. And so when you're focusing on the Midwest, and I'm a Midwest guy, so I can definitely, yes. I mean, I have a number of friends that did that exact kind of plan, to be able to, some of them have actually decided they wanted to stay because they enjoy living in a manufactured home. But you talked about one thing as well, and I just want to make sure that all of our audience understands when you talk about the lot rent for owned homes versus non-owned homes, or lots, excuse me, because there's a different philosophy. Maybe you can talk a little bit to that, and then also by going with the model that you have, where it's really just renting the land, how you feel that helps you in terms of scale versus if your model was one where you actually own the land as well as the manufactured home. I think that would be important for our audience.
Totally. So, these mobile home parks have, several lots and utility infrastructure, fencing and so forth, improvements to the land that we as owners can depreciate. So that in and of itself makes mobile home parks very tax efficient, especially with bonus depreciation and, cost segregation. So there's that add-on. In addition to that, all of the residents, probably 85% of our communities, the residents in our communities, own their homes. And, they're responsible now for leaking refrigerators, any appliances that are breaking. If there's a leak in the roof, they need to pay the money to get it fixed. If, there's, I owned multifamily. I had an older apartment complex. Back in my wholesaling days, I was able to purchase a mobile home, it was a 9-unit.
Okay.
And it was an older apartment complex. And I owned that at the same time as I owned the 67 lot mobile home park in the St. Louis, Missouri Metro.
Mm-hmm.
And I got more calls from the tenants in the 9 units at the apartment complex for repairs, maintenance. They had insects, coming through their doors or windows that were leaky. I had more maintenance requests for that 9-unit, multifamily complex compared to the 67-unit mobile home park that was 5 states away. The 67 lot mobile home park was easier to manage 5 states away than the 9-unit that was 45 minutes from my door. So that was an aha moment for me. And that's why I sold that 9-unit and went full-fledged into mobile home parks, because it was just more scalable, because we don't own, the actual homes. We just own the land underneath of them. So that, without having that, you don't have to have the extra manpower, the extra maintenance team, construction costs, et cetera, associated with owning the homes. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. So, and by being able to take that approach, because once again, it goes back to your real life experience and how that real life experience is now molding the way that your business and your vision is being formulated and moving forward. So, so it's always interesting to see these patterns, right? And especially the patterns in successful people where you've had this experience, and that experience is now allowing you to figure your path and drive your organization. I guess, kind of before we wrap up, there is this other thing, right? And you haven't necessarily said it directly, but I want to help us understand what is the real importance of systems and having strong systems in place when I guess in terms of being able to allow you to scale to 9 different states or beyond that, because I'm sure it's not going to just stop at 9 states, but really the role and the importance of systems in terms of being able to scale effectively.
Oh, that's just been so huge for us, and I think it's important for any business owner to implement systems. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to do everything yourself, and that was something that I was fortunate enough to learn early on. Is that we need to implement systems to be able to grow efficiently. There's one thing to grow and then you grow and you're kind of out of control and you're making mistakes. But if you can grow efficiently because you have proper systems in place, that's the way to do it. So we've implemented, very specific systems. We use software project management systems. We use Rent Manager for our, invoicing and statements to our residents. But that's just been monumental for us to help us grow. And like for example, we had a bookkeeper recently that got some things outside of work happened, and she had to leave and she had to handle those things. So when that type of thing happens, if you don't have systems in place, the wheels will start to come off. You're not getting bills paid, contractors are quitting, et cetera. But since we had systems in place, we had everything very clearly defined in Trello, which is our software, project management software. We had cards and videos showing how to do every step of her job. It was very easy to just plug and play a new employee and keep going instead of, basically having to derail and then reset, a new person, with several months of training and so forth. So having systems is very important, and I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I'm also a huge fan, and it's one of those things when you have the different processes in place, and then you have those specific standard operating procedures that really can help you in situations like the one you just described. You start realizing how important it is to actually have those processes, those SOPs or standard operating procedures in place, so that you never skip a beat. Or at least you try not to skip a beat. At least it's not difficult to find your way back. So appreciate you helping us understand just the importance of systems and being able to allow you to scale. So Andrew, there's so many different things that we could continue to talk about, but time is limited, and I know you've got things to do. But it's one of these things that I always get to this part, and I really like asking the questions, but it kind of means like the conversation's coming to an end. So this is the part where we kind of get to what we talk about as the going long final 3 questions. And the thing is, Andrew, I never ask the going long final 3 questions unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I think you were born ready, man. Here we go. All right. First question gets this back to this whole concept of me being here in Barcelona. Love being able to connect people from all over the globe. But now we did stateside first, but let's bring it back this way. So I would love for you to share with us, what is your favorite European city, either that you have visited already, and with you living in Europe, I'm sure it's going to be a little bit easier for you, or it's still on your bucket list?
It has to be Ravello in Italy. It's up on the mountains above Amalfi. I spent some time there with my wife, and it's just the most beautiful place, I think, in the entire world that I've been to. And it's just fantastic. I think everybody needs to go there to see the beauty that, we live in this world.
Yeah, it's that's a wonderful part of the world, and the Capri and the whole kind of like areas. Amalfi Coast is fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. So you've shared a lot of different perspectives with us today. And, when you are running a successful organization, and you've been a part of successful sports teams in the past, things like that, along the way, you probably are going to make 1 or 2 mistakes, only 1 or 2, or maybe more than that. But if you could think of just kind of maybe one mistake that you've made specifically as it relates to building your business or real estate, and really think about the lesson that you learned from that mistake. Can you share that one lesson with us, so with the hopes that maybe somebody's not going to make the exact same mistake that you did?
Yeah, totally. And we've made tons of mistakes, and after making those, we're able to learn. We use all of them as learning experiences. And, I'll never forget on the second deal that I ever did, it was in just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And we did an electrical inspection on the community before we purchased it. However, we learned after the fact that the electrical contractor that came out and did the inspection, he only was looking at the pedestals and not the actual in the ground infrastructure that the power company implemented. And we didn't meet with the power company engineer, which now is standard protocol. Well, what we learned is that if you want to make improvements to the electrical, you're going to need the power company to be involved with that and have this engineer involved with that. So long story short, this whole row of mobile homes with like 30 mobile homes on it was daisy chained, meaning that there was one power supply line that then was spliced off to service each home. So the last mobile home in this line was like having shorts, like the power would go out. Somebody would be, blow drying their hair or something, and their power kept flickering on and off at the last unit in the line. And it would get progressively worse with the homes that were towards the end had less power supply than the ones that were closer to the transformer. So that was a huge learning experience that, you want a transformer every 3 or 4 homes to make sure you don't have this problem. So long story short, we had to do a capital call to luckily at the time it was only one investor, to raise an additional $60,000 to, then put transformers about every 3 or 4 homes to make sure that, the power supply was not weaker at the end of the row. And the electrical contractor that we had do the inspection, he said, he didn't even look at that because he thought that the power company would supply, that power to the pedestal and they would deal with that part where it was a unique situation. So now we changed our whole protocol, and in due diligence, we make sure to check that off. But that was something that you can't learn and didn't, you didn't learn in the boot camps or in any book that you had read. That's just something that, through an experience like that we learned the hard way, unfortunately. However, I might add that deal did end up being a huge success as we were able to refinance and pull out all investor capital plus like $300,000 with a Fannie Mae loan. So, there was an issue, but at the end of the day, we recovered, and it ended up being a huge success in terms of a case study that's actually listed on our website.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we'll get a chance to get there. But yeah, even when you are working with professionals, there are still some things that could happen. There's one thing that you did talk about. I just want to make sure that our audience, because we're just getting started and things like that. But you talked about a capital call. Basically, once you've gone and raised the capital, you actually are going back to your investors and asking for more capital to make sure that things are working properly moving forward. So it's one of those things where it does happen, and at the same time, it allows you to realize, okay, next time when we look for this, we just raise more money up front on the front end. So these are also things that help our audience understand exactly what the capital call is there. So thanks for sharing that lesson with us, Andrew. And I guess we're gonna ask the very last question, and it's one of the things that we always want to continue to help people become educated, understand theory. We really want to get into action, but one of those things is really helping us to understand in terms of books. And I would love to know what book recommendation you could share with the Going Long audience today.
Yeah, I'm a huge reader. I try to read a book a month. And one book that I'm a huge fan of is called Forever Cash, and that's by Jack Bosch. And it talks about, breaking the earn spend cycle and, buying real assets that will pay you forever and not just for a short period of time. So highly recommend that book to our audience.
All right. Fantastic. Forever Cash by Jack Bosch. And it's going to be on the list. So we're going to add that to the to your recommendations. And listen, we've talked about so many things. I know I started at the very beginning, and I talked a little bit and teased the whole thing about being from traveling from Finland or living in Finland to financial freedom, having that unique perspective in terms of having lived overseas, having lived in a different state, having participated in team sports, then afterwards having had an idea and an understanding from not just your experience working with people in the paper asset world, but also really at home after having seen your father in terms of business and in the high highs and the low lows. And that has really helped you today, Andrew, to formulate your business vision and your business plan and is allowing you to go beyond your backyard, not just in Florida, but to 9 different states. Very clear plan, understanding, and reasons why you're doing that. And I know you're continuing to help other people learn more about the space in the manufactured home communities. And you're doing that through not only with Keel Team Real Estate Investments, but also, as I mentioned before, with Passive Mobile Home Park Investing, your podcast where you're the host. And so there's so many bits of goodness that you've shared with us. And I know I want to keep talking to you forever. And I know that there are lots of people out there today that are like, how do I get in touch with Andrew? I want to find out more about this space. I want to contact with him and his team. So help us understand, man. Andrew, what is the best way for our audience to contact you and your team?
Yeah, that would be through my website, which is keelteam.com. That's just KEELTEAM.com. They can fill out the contact form and someone from my team will be in touch and we'll set up a call.
All right, perfect. KeelTeam.com. And listen, Andrew, I want to thank you personally for joining us today on the Going Long podcast, for sharing your goodness, sharing your insights. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you very much.
Well, Billy, thank you so much for having me. This is fantastic. I'm glad we got to connect.
All right. Fantastic. So that's awesome. Also, too, just want to really quickly thank everybody out there in the Going Long audience. Really appreciate you participating, listening to all the words of wisdom that Andrew's sharing with us today. It's been fantastic. And as a result, why don't you go out and share this with at least 2 or 3 other people? I know that there's someone that that could really benefit from what Andrew was sharing with us today. We'd appreciate you doing exactly that. Also, too, listen, why don't you go ahead and leave us a review? We'd love to know what your thoughts were. If you really, really liked it, feel free to leave a 5-star review as well. The thing is it just helps us to also attract more fantastic guests like Andrew moving forward. And I'm sure he would also want to know what you thought about today's episode. So until then, I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next episode of the Going Long podcast. Until then, go out and make it a great day. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.